All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. On a Tuesday, it's time for Frank Klose and the Phillies mailbag. We'll take a couple of look at some of your questions. We'll ask Frank some of my questions, talk a little Phils as they continue in Clearwater, getting ready for opening day. Just a couple of weeks away. Frank, welcome back, pal. How you been?
Good to see you, Mike. I've been great. How about yourself?
Yeah, you were in Clearwater recently. How was that?
Very, very nice and hot. Not the same with fewer fans and with restrictions. So I did not get to the bait house,
Oh,
which I know
man.
is your favorite thing. But hopefully my next trip I will. But it's still a lot of spring breakers around.
Yeah, well, the bait house is a must for anybody who's still going down to Philly spring training. Make sure you stop at the Clearwater Bait House. Tell them Mike and Frank sent you. All right, that won't get you much. All right, Frank, let's get into this week's mailbag. And I think a lot of stuff is surrounding a couple things at spring training. The center field battle, the bullpen battle, the starting rotation battle. But what about the bench battle? And Brandon wants to know, what will Brad Miller's injury mean for the Phillies roster? And that's really more of a question of what this bench makeup will be. Yesterday on the show, Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad, who covers the Phillies as well, he said he thinks Scott Kingery might be on the roster bubble the way he's performing. They might just get rid of him altogether. So Brad Miller's injury, what does it mean for this roster? What does this bench look like?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Brad Miller seems to have a little bit of an oblique issue. So I was watching him work out on Saturday morning at third base. He was finally going to play a position other than first base because Rhys Hoskins was back in the lineup, so that was pretty good. And Rhys Hoskins played first base on Saturday. But Miller, he was in the lineup. He never made it to the game. Ronald Torreyes ended up taking over, and it sounds like it's an oblique issue. When you talk to Miller, Miller seems to say that he thinks it's minor and he'll be ready for opening day. But, with those oblique injuries, as we've seen them time and time again, the only real thing to get better is rest. And we've also seen time and time again, if a player comes back too soon from that oblique injury, then the results could be way worse because you risk aggravating it to an even worse degree. So it sounds like he was trying to be proactive. Hopefully he's with them for opening day. What's going to, I think, happen is the Phillies will probably have to go to one of their other 40-man roster guys that can play the infield, like a Nick Maton or a C.J. Chatham that they picked up from the Boston Red Sox. But I think that they should be cautious with Miller. His bat is too important to the Phillies as that left-handed bat off the bench, and the fact that he can play infield and outfield just means so much for this Phillies team in terms of their versatility.
Yeah, I know the 40-man roster is going to be interesting because you have guys like Odubel Herrera, Tony Watson, Sam Coonrod, and maybe somebody else.
Brandon Kinsler, of course.
Kinsler,
Matt
yes.
Joyce.
No, not Coonrod. Kinsler was the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, Kinsler and Matt Joyce.
You got four potential guys that are not on the 40-man that may have to go on the 40-man.
That's why I'm still rather skeptical about Odubel Herrera making this team. We've seen him play very well out of the gate. Then he went 0 for 9, and then he hits another home run and has a bunt single. I'm not a big fan of the bat flips with somebody trying to present a new aura of humility to make this team and to get the trust of his teammates back. But I'm still a little skeptical about Herrera making this roster. I think Matt Joyce will be on the roster. I think Brandon Kinsler will be on the roster. I think Tony Watson will be on the roster. And then the injuries could complicate this because then you got to figure out how you would make any more space. I think the Phillies want to hang on to as many of their prospects as they can and really not cut anybody, if possible, to put players onto this roster.
All right, let's get to another question in Frank's mailbag here, and that is, I guess since we talked a little bit about center field there, you have that question that has kind of been lingering about center field. How do you kind of see center field shaking out at this moment?
I still think if Adam Hazley is injured, I think Roman Quinn is probably still your favorite, at least to be the starter. Adam Hazley should be back soonish. We don't really know when. I'm really surprised they're not playing their number 1 pick overall, Mickey Moniak, that much lately. We could maybe see his playing time increase in upcoming days, but they seem to want to give the playing time to to Quinn and to even Kingery a little bit in center field. They even played Travis Jankowski in center field the other day, which was surprising. He had Herrera and Kingery in the corners. I still tend to think that Quinn, when he's healthy, he's going to have he's some point in his career, he's going to have an outstanding year. And I don't think the Phillies can wait for another injury, but if he's healthy, we've seen how electric he is. We've even seen it this spring, and his speed on the base pass, he can do some real damage. I think that Roman Quinn probably gets the first shot given the circumstances with Hasely out, but if Hasely's back quickly, I could see him playing a lot. But I still think Herrera has a bit of a path to climb because they have to create a roster spot for him. And for them to do that, they need to be totally sure that he's going to be not just electric at times, like even this spring, that he needs to be consistent.
Frank Klose's Philly mailbag is out. You can check it out at 97.3ESPN.com. Speaking of today, Moniak is in the lineup. He is playing center field and batting eighth. So Moniak, actually, is he batting eighth or ninth today? I guess there's no DH, so he's batting eighth today. So Moniak is playing center field today. McCutchen is in left. Harper is in right. Phillies starting rotation. Do we have, in your mind, the 5 set?
I think we do see the 5 set. We've seen very strong springs out of Matt Moore and Chase Anderson, the 2 free agent signees that the Phillies gave major league deals to, gave decent amount of money to. And, if you're looking at how the Phillies have been setting up the rotation in recent days, they have Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Zach Eflin, like you would expect. But then right behind them are Matt Moore and Chase Anderson. And the 2 of them have combined for 1 run in 3 starts each, like total, between the 2 of them. So I think they not only have not given up runs, but they've looked really good this spring. I think they've earned their spots as the 4th and 5th starters on this club. Of course, that could change in the last couple of weeks if something goes horribly wrong, but I think they both look great. The Phillies gave them major league deals. I think they're going to be in that rotation. And then, of course, if you decide that those are your 4th and 5th guys, you got to ask the question, what does that mean for Vince Velasquez and Spencer Howard? And I think that Vince Velasquez is probably on the bubble. I don't really know what to do with him if I'm the Phillies. He's probably not going to make the rotation. He's hardly pitched this spring. In fact, I would expect to see him in the mix today at some point. And where do you put him? I mean, do you have room in the bullpen? I think it's arguable that there are better bullpen options. I think the best thing for him would be to trade him to somebody like the Houston Astros that are just desperate for pitching right now, send him back where he came from. When you talk about Spencer Howard, he actually got scratched yesterday. He just had a little bit of back spasms, and so I think that's a sign the Phillies should take it easy with Howard.
Yeah,
either go light in the bullpen or maybe just send him to the alternate site and let him ease in.
The point you bring up about the bullpen with Velasquez, I think they've done the kid a disservice, not just saying you're in this mix for the rotation. They should have just said right from the get-go, you're not in the rotation mix. Focus on being a bullpen guy. And now he's kind of stuck in limbo. There might be too many arms in that bullpen. He might not even have a spot in the bullpen. It doesn't appear that he has a spot in the rotation. That bullpen, there's a lot of it's very crowded in that bullpen, let's say.
It is, especially when you consider the non-roster guys, Kinsler and Watson. I mean, I really do think the Phillies need both those guys on the major league roster. They're both veterans. They both have a tremendous track record. And I think there might have even been like a handshake agreement with Kinsler that he would be added later when they can make some moves. But with Hector Neris coming back and Archie Bradley in the mix, when you add Watson and Kinsler, that's a pretty good core in your bullpen, and then you try to figure out the rest. Jojo Romero, he's looked very, very good so far this spring. So I from the left side, maybe he's getting some attention. Alvarado, they brought him into the mix. Sean Coonrod has been okay, but I think they're gonna have some trouble figuring out what to do with the rest. Still trying to figure out what you have, and I mean Ranger Suarez is still hanging out around, not really pitching much this spring, but they have a lot of guys. I think what they're gonna have to do is just go with the best. Somebody like Connor Brogdon, I could see starting the year in the minors to get him a little bit more seasoning / not have to make a tough decision and remove somebody from the organization. But he's been looking good. So there really are a lot of options, and you really get the feeling like this bullpen is not the bullpen of last year.
All right, Frank Klose, Phillies mailbag. Let's get to the last one, which everybody wants to know. Will fans be in the stands after Governor Wolf's latest announcement? We know 8,800 or so will already be there, but how about more?
Well, it looks like, according to the state of Pennsylvania, they're willing to go 50% for outdoor events like this. I think the challenge is, and this is the stipulation, that people can distance 6 feet apart. So when you consider the capacity of Citizens Bank Park, which is just over 43,000, it's not like you can just have that and have them there, because you're probably going to have to go every other row. And then from the pods, as they've been calling them, of maybe 2, 3, and 4 seats, you're going to need space to the left and the right. So we'll see what that number is. But before that happens, and before the Phillies can figure out how many they can squeeze in, they also have to have the city of Philadelphia get on board with those restrictions too. So the city actually has their own in place that would supersede the state as a whole. If the city of Philadelphia raises their capacity, then the Phillies would be able to do more. But it's nice to see it's happening sooner than later. And even though they've only sold that small amount of tickets for the early going, there'll be perhaps some opportunity to sell some more tickets and get some more Phillies fans in there.
All right, Frank Klose, Phillies mailbag. Of course, you can get Frank on Twitter at Frank Klose with a K. That's Klose for each week's Phillies mailbag. And read the mailbag answers at 973ESPN.com. And Frank is back every Tuesday with the mailbag right here. Phillies baseball just around the corner. Some interesting battles. We'll continue to chronicle them here in Frank's mailbag. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mike.
And Frank Klose, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. We got plenty more to go. Coming up in the next hour, Jeff Nadeau takes a look at the tournament, best bets for the tournament. And at 3:40 today, a special 3:40 time for today's Inside the Sixers with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis. He'll join me at 3:40.